Hello and welcome to round 5 at Londrina for GSC 2012 100%. The grid for round 5 was Dave Ellis pole, and then it was Larson second, Jacobi was third, and fourth went to Neil Ascoff. Fifth was Gary Kemp on his return, sixth was Nigel Lee, seventh went to Gullimere Kramer, eighth was Andrew Jones, ninth was Sim Steele, 10th was Matt By, and Adrian Herrera was 11th. So the safety car pulls into the pits then. Ellis on the inside for turn 1, Larson on the outside, and we are racing. Ellis got a good start and managed to get a good gap to Larson. He was untroubled into the first corner. Not much happening further back position change wise, everyone seemed to stay where they qualified. Larson immediately got onto the back of Ellis though as they came into turn 2. Through 3 and 4 and onto the back straight. Larson with a better exit coming out of there. He's in the slipstream of Ellis and moves to the outside. Still on the outside as they exit the corner. Side by side still. It looked like Larson took the position coming into the final corner. And yes, he does. So after the first lap, everything stayed as it was for the top 4. Ellis having it up down the outside at the first corner again as they come on to the second lap now. Can't quite make it there though. Back on the first lap, this is at the start, first corner. Andrew Jones has a big off all by himself. Luckily he didn't damage anything on the car there though, so he managed to continue on with his race. And then as we came on to lap 2, first corner again, Herrera clipped the inside curve and got out of shape. And whilst that was happening, Andrew Jones, who was recovering from the last lap, also did the same thing and spun it as well, doing a perfect 360 there. So back with the leaders then. Ellis is still right with Larson going down the back straight and in the slipstream. He goes for the outside again this time. And just like Larson the previous lap, he manages to hold it all the way around the outside, coming into the final sector. Still around the outside, final corner he's going to have the inside line though. And he's still not made the move, or he might do now. Can he get a better exit than Larson? No, Larson's managed to pull away down the straight, he ducks into the slipstream. Can he get alongside into the first corner? He does. Is there room for him to get through though? Still around the outside. And he makes the move as Ovi spins in the background. We'll get back to that in a minute. So Ellis has retaken the lead, but Larson's down the inside coming to turn 2 already. Larson a bit sideways out of turn 2 into turn 3 and 4, and Ellis has managed to keep the position and take the lead away from Larson. This is back with Ovi, who got his braking all wrong coming into the first corner. Sideways he went. Right in front of Ascoff and Kemp. Lee makes his way through. And then Kramer, who seemed to not slow down or take any avoiding action at all, ran straight into the side of him. This is on board with Kemp now. Ascoff in front of us, and there goes Ovi spinning off. Kemp left with nowhere to go apart from straight across the track. Unfortunately that picked him up the stop and go penalty though, so he had to come in to serve that. And this is on board with Kramer, who pretty much just didn't slow down and didn't make much of an attempt to avoid Ovi there, running straight into the side of him. Back at the front, and Ellis has an off himself, which allows Larson to retake the lead. Meanwhile, Askoff is spinning off on board with Kemp. And just as we come into the hairpin, Askoff gets it sideways and across the grass, and that was that. There goes Matt By, and there goes Kramer and Ovi. This is Kemp taking his stop and go penalty for cutting the first corner. Not much he could do about that though, I'm afraid. And a bit of a harsh penalty. On board with Ovi, he's going wide now. Hairpin, same as Ellis and Askoff. And that allows Matt By through. Matt By now challenging with Sim's steal into the first corner. Sim's out wide, Matt By is almost doing the same. Managed to avoid contact between the two, and Kramer sees an opportunity to dive down the inside of By going into turn 2. Contact between the two on the exit. Kramer now making a move on Steele, first corner again. Steele gets it all wrong and goes across the top of those yellow curvings, sleeping policemen we like to call them. So that allows Kramer to get down the inside on turn 2. Matt By follows him through, and he's got Askoff and Ovi behind. Matt By can't quite make the move though, and Askoff in fact actually challenges coming onto the back straight. Askoff gets a better run out of the fourth turn than Matt By did. And there comes Ovi to make it almost straight wide. Ovi on the grass trying to get past Matt By. There's brake locking up ahead. Steele runs it wide. Matt By doing the same. Ovi's going to be alongside By and manages to take 2 positions as go 3 wide into that corner. Contact between Steele and Ovi. Askoff staying well out of the way of this at the minute. Steele with a run on By coming out the corner, but Askoff activates push to pass and barely manages to squeeze through past both Steele and By on the start finish straight. He picks up 2 more places in one go there. Great battle between all those guys. Matt By then goes straight across the first chicane, and that allows Sim to get alongside him. I'm not sure what happened there, but Sim ended up in the side of Matt By. Now we're on board with Ovi and Kramer. Kramer with some heavy defending coming into turn 2 here. Ovi takes the position, and Kramer has a look coming into turns 3 and 4. Wisely backs out of it though. And Askoff isn't too far behind. There comes Kramer. Ovi forces him way up against the wall and on the grass there. Obviously unhappy with Kramer's defending into turn 2 and dishing it back as Kramer goes sailing straight on at the hairpin. And meanwhile Askoff spins in the background for the second time, Matt By having to take avoiding action. Sim still manages to get through. He's on board with Steele. There's Askoff, and that's Matt By on the outside. Where's he gone? He's there. Still side by side into the final corner. And Matt By has managed to get alongside. Is he ahead? He is. I think he's actually ahead into this first corner now. And he takes the position away from Steele. Steele pretty much climbed over the top of By's boot there. Now we're back with the leaders. Ellis recovering from his earlier off. Push to pass on Larson, I should think. Coming into the hairpin. And he's through. before they've got to the corner. Larson doesn't give up the position though, he's still hanging around the outside like he did on the first couple of laps. Some great driving between these two so far in this race. Larson trying to get back down the inside into the final corner. But Ellis does pull away down this start-finish straight. But with Askoff now, he's fallen back behind Steele. I think that is. Yes, it is. Askoff has... Oh yes, that's him recovering from his spin earlier on. So that's him past Steele again. And this is Matt Bye coming to pit lane, first of the stops. Nigel Lee then followed him in from third position. Another quiet race for Lee again. Next up was Askoff. Then had Ovi coming into pit lane from third place. So it's Lee that was fourth, sorry, not third. It is Larson from second making his stop. Then Tim Steele was next on to pit lane. Pretty eventful race for Steele so far, as Jones is also pitting this lap. Lee then made a mistake coming onto the back straight after his stop, which allowed Ovi to gain the position back from Lee. So I got it wrong, it was Lee that was third, Ovi had dropped back down to fourth. Now Ovi's third. Ellis pitting from the lead now. He was one of the last cars to make their stops. And the very last car to make their stop was Kramer, who got his pit entry completely wrong there. Trying to run into everything he could find in the pit entry, I think. So that's the stops out the way then, and Lee is getting his way back past Ovi down the back straight. Does he get it slowed down in time? He does. It was a bit wide on the exit of that, well, a bit wide on the apex of that corner, and Ovi's back down the inside of him. Lee switches over as Kemp comes into pit lane. Ooh, contact between Ovi and Lee there. Ovi's on the inside line now though, so surely he should take the position away from Lee, and he has done. Although Lee is trying to get in the slipstream. Can't make anything of it though as they come into the first corner. Andrew Jones, who had been struggling with damage after quite a few incidents, then made the most spectacular crash that we've seen all season. And he wins the Big Air award, I think. That put him out on the spot. Next up we've got Askoff battling with Lee, who has now dropped back behind Ovi quite a bit. Askoff with an eventful race yet again. Askoff down the inside, but he's going to have the outside line for the final corner. Lee should be able to defend the position here. But Askoff's got a better run onto the start-finish straight, and he pulls alongside. Almost contact between the two multiple times there. Can Askoff get round the outside of Lee into the first corner? Lee doesn't manage to keep Askoff behind him, so that moves Askoff up into wherever he'll be. Can't remember what position he was at this point, as Ellis makes this slight mistake in the first corner across the sleeping policeman, which allowed Larson to we take the lead away from Ellis. Onto the back straight we come yet again. Ellis a bit too far back from Larson to make any sort of challenge. He's letting Larson know he's there though. On the brakes into the hairpin. And now we've got Kemp and Matt Bai battling for what I believe was 8th place at this point. Kemp going around the outside of Matt Bai down the start finish straight. Matt Bai on the grass there, and perhaps slight contact between Kemp as he gets it across the curb and all locked up, and contact between the two in the middle of the corner. Bai down the inside into turn 2. Kemp hanging it all the way around the outside though. Can he get ahead of Bai before turns 3 and 4? He can. Bai with a tighter line coming onto the back straight there than Kemp. Bai's got a run on him, possibly using push to pass right now. He's back down the inside as they come into the hairpin. But Kemp manages to hold the position around the outside. So Larson, who was still ahead of Ellis after his mistake, couldn't get rid of Ellis, and coming into turn 2 Ellis managed to dove down the inside. Can't quite make anything of it there though, and stays in second. Gets a run on Larson coming down the back straight yet again. Still too far back to make any real sort of challenge. Larson's a bit wide on that corner though. And he's wide again. Contact between the two almost. Lapped car in the form of Sim Steele up ahead. This is a few laps later. And once again coming into the final corner, Ellis gets a much better exit than Larson does. Closing in down the start finish straight. Can he get around Larson as they come into turn 1? Still side by side in the braking zone. Ellis is forced to go all the way around the outside of Larson, but he makes the move. Another great move there. Some great racing between these two still. We're now on to the second round of pit stops, and Nigel Lee is the first of the points contenders to make a stop, followed by Askoff. Herrera's in there as well. And as they exit the pits, Askoff got a quicker stop than Lee did, and he manages to take the place away from Lee. Almost side by side in the pit lane. So that was for 4th and 5th at that point. Ovi pitting from 3rd now. And here's Ellis on Larson. Ellis with a... oh no, this was Ellis and Kramer. Of course Ellis had taken the lead, so Kramer's being lapped here and moves over on Ellis. He's trying to defend a position that's not actually there. Kramer still defending heavily from Ellis for some reason coming into this hairpin. And Ellis eventually deciding enough is enough and just moves Kramer out the way, Larson having to take avoiding action from his teammate. And Larson then pitted a lap later. Ellis was then next on to pit lane, which promoted Kramer up into, well, Kramer was probably about third or fourth at this point. Askoff getting past Kramer at this point. This is for position. Kramer going straight on at the first corner, can't get it slowed down, and Askoff's through. Kramer then eventually pitting and once again hitting the wall on the pit entry. He was pretty much the last car to pit, I think. Final lap now then, and Askoff makes a mistake from the recovering steel. And that allowed Lee past Askoff enough into fourth. So it was Nick Ovey that finished third. It's another third place for him and Team RLD. It was Gary Kemp that finished sixth on his return, with Kramer in seventh, not far behind him. Fourth went to Nigel Lee and fifth was Askoff, and then Ellis is just behind them taking the win. And then of course it was Jan Larsen in second. So that's it for this round. We're not here next week because of the American Le Mans Series, so join us in 2 weeks time at the Rio circuit.